Keto and crime, keto and crime. We uncover the grime on keto and crime. Keto and crime, keto and crime. Now is the time for keto and crime.
Hey everyone, welcome to Keto and Crime. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday. As you can see, still have our decorations up. Probably will be up until after New Year's. But had a wonderful holiday with family and friends. I hope you did as well. And what am I starting us off in the brand new year with Keto and Crime? A shooting rampage that took place in 2016 in Kalamazoo, Michigan as a result of an Uber driver that went uber nuts. That's all you can say. So without further ado, let's jump into this very freaky story.
Own words, the man accused of killing 6 people on one night in February.
It begins on February 20th, 2016, a few days after Valentine's Day in the small area of Michigan known as Kalamazoo County, where a 45-year-old Uber driver by the name of James Brian Dalton went on a rampage that would take several lives and terrify the entire state of Michigan. And what's even more scary is that prior to this, Mr. Dalton had absolutely no prior record, nothing that would indicate that this was about to happen. It truly was out of the blue. He did have some issues with temper at work, which we will address, but as far as indications of what was about to happen, none. It was right out of the blue. So with that being said, let's jump into the background on Mr. Dalton himself. Dalton was born in an average middle-class family in 1971, raised in the small town of Greenfield, Indiana. He went to middle and high school in Charlottesville, near Greenfield, Indiana, and attended 𝐼𝐬𝐶 High School in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And by the way, for those of you wondering, that is Charlottesville, Indiana, which is an unincorporated area near Greenfield, not Charlottesville, Virginia. After his parents relocated to Kalamazoo, he did attend 𝐼𝐬𝐶 High School and graduated in graduating in 1989. He then attended Kalamazoo Valley Community College with an associate's degree in law enforcement and graduated from there in December of 1992. He did not pursue police academy training after graduation. Instead, he married his then wife, Carol, in 1995, and they had 2 children together. At the time of the shootings, they lived in Cooper Township, Michigan, not far from Kalamazoo. He was generally known as a nice guy. All through high school, kind of unassuming, just that kind of chubby, funny guy that everyone liked. Nothing, typical Midwesterner, very friendly. He was a very devoted family man. In fact, that's the reason he was driving Uber. He was wanting to take his family to Disney World for a vacation and was using Uber as a means to make that happen. Later on, when the police were investigating, it was determined he was acting a bit depressed and a bit anxious a few days before the shootings, but nothing that would, discern mad gunman, According to friends and relatives, and there's not a whole lot on this guy. Like I said, he's not a famous person. There's a lot of information, but he had attempted to seek a job as a police officer in Michigan, though he chose not to attend the academy, so I don't understand, or in nearby states, but was unable to do it, so he had resigned himself to finding another job. He studied auto body work for a bit at Wyoming Tech in Laramie, Wyoming, and found a job in a BMW office in New Jersey at one point, and allowed him to build up quite a repertoire of knowledge of both automotives and dealing with insurance. Because when you're an auto body guy and working in a BMW office, a BMW dealership office, he learned to deal with insurance. And that kind of came together to his current job after he and his family relocated back to Michigan after Wyoming and New Jersey. In his current job as an insurance adjuster for automobile accidents. So it all turned out for the better. He had only been driving for Uber about 2 weeks. So, and took fares with no incident, had a typical Uber 5-star rating, and even took fares before and in between shootings on the night of the shooting. So it was almost as if he was drifting in and out of some sort of psychosis or mania. He did pass all the required Uber background checks. No, as I said, no priors, nothing like that. The only thing that was even sketchy about him was a former coworker at his insurance company said he saw Dalton yell at a customer over the phone, slam the phone down, and then pace around the desk very angrily. This is about 2 to 3 weeks before the incident. Evidently, then this propounded a lot of evidence that perhaps he had been counseled by his supervisors about losing his temper with customers of the insurance company, as well as third parties and other insurance companies he was dealing with. So he was beginning to have some anger issues, it seems. No more than anybody else working in corporate America would, just before February 20th, 2016. And then, as it progressed, he was questioned by police the week prior to the shootings, for some shootings that happened along Interstate 94 and at 69 through Kalamazoo. But it turned out that was just as a step, because he was the insurance adjuster on the scene that handled a damaged police car. So that was the reason he was questioned about that, and was cleared of any involvement in that other than his professional involvement as an adjuster. His wife, Carol, would say that she did seem that her husband was a little down, as other friends had done, and he told her he was just tired from working a full-time 9 to 5 and then driving every night for Uber. He had been working solid, 7 days a week, 7 nights a week, driving for Uber. So be nice to your Uber drivers, your Lyft drivers, your taxi drivers. They're out there driving all the time, and probably most of them have another job as well. So be very, very nice to your drivers, please. But he said he was just tired from driving, and she didn't question it. Why would you? Saturday morning, February 20th, 2016, was a normal Saturday in the sleepy little Midwestern town. The Dalton family got up. Carol took their 15-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter out shopping and to run errands. Dalton called a friend named Brian and asked him did he want to accompany him while he ran some errands. The friend said yes, so he took their German Shepherd, Mia, out for a walk and took her along with friend Brian while they were running errands. And then they finished up about 3 in the afternoon. He told Brian he was going to go take a nap and then go out and drive Uber starting around 5 or 6 p.m. Brian did inquire whether or not they were having some financial problems and could he help, and he assured them these were not financial problems. They could live just fine on his insurance adjuster salary and what his wife Carol did, but he was just trying to save to take the family to Disney World as he had promised the following summer, and that's the reason he was driving. Brian did kind of raise a couple of red flags, because some of the errands that they ran that day were to various gun stores where he observed that Dalton was showing a keen interest in different handguns and handguns that could be concealed. So again, he asked him, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yes, I'm just tired from all the driving, but I wanted to purchase a handgun, teach my son how to shoot." Midwestern stuff, literally. Both Brian and the store owner said that he was in good spirits, was joking around. He was a little more quiet in the car than normal, but did say he was just tired, and the store owner had seen him before. He had passed all background checks. So there was no problem in him getting whatever weapons that he needed, though he never purchased the weapon from this particular gun store and ended up purchasing elsewhere. He went out to drive, taking Mia with him. Now that is strange. I don't know if I've taken many Ubers and Lyfts, and I don't know if I would be so keen to get in if I realized they had their pet with them. Not that I love pets. Goodness knows I've got a menagerie. But it is rather strange and, kind of risk your rating. But he was driving in their silver Chevy Equinox and put Mia in the back seat and stopped to pick up his first fare, a female college student who refused to get into the car because of Mia. And then he picked up another gentleman by the name of Matt Mellon just shortly after his shift began at 4 p.m. And Mellon did later say he thought it was weird, but, pets don't bother him, everybody to their own thing. So he just got in the front seat and they continued on their journey. Very little small talk, because it seemed to him that Dalton didn't really want to talk. They did do a little casual chit chat, but nothing. In fact, Mellon was asking to be driven to a friend's house to pick up his car because he was too intoxicated to drive it home the night before and had taken another Uber home. Now he was going back to pick up his vehicle. Now, during their journey, Dalton received a phone call on Bluetooth, and Mr. Mellon could hear the majority of the conversation. He said he couldn't really tell if it was young, old, male, female, but it turned out it was Dalton's son. They had gone to eat at 𝐜𝐚𝐬𝐸, and Mom wanted the son to give his father a call and ask if he would like them to pick up any dinner for him. So it was a pretty innocuous conversation, a little chit-chat with his son. Mellon didn't recall whether or not Dalton told him, yes, please pick me up something or not, but then the call ended, and that's when all heck broke loose, according to Mellon. He hung up, and then he floored the Equinox. He took off at well over 100 miles an hour, putting pedal to metal, and just started driving very erratically, including veering into oncoming lane of traffic, drove over a median and ignored a stop sign, and and sideswiped a Ford Taurus. Mellon screamed at him, "Dude, you just hit that car." He said Dalton replied, "I didn't hit anything." And he begged Dalton to stop, let him out. He said, "No, I've got to get you to your friend's house to pick up your car." And he was just driving erratically out of the car, though. Mellon said that Dalton took them on a topsy-turvy drive around a residential area. He was screaming, "Please let me out." Dalton would not. He was driving very erratically. They passed the home of a Casey Black, who her and her husband were outside smoking, and kind of saw the erratic behavior, but then saw this silver SUV stop at a stop sign, and then saw somebody tumble out of the passenger side. Turned out it was Mellon. After Dalton had driven off, Mellon kind of told them what had happened, and he called immediately 911 and tried to report what had just happened.
911. County emergency. Hi, I'd like to report a crazy driver. I just got an Uber to my friend's house, and on the way there, he was driving erratic down West Main. He hit a car. He drove through the woods, and I finally just jumped out.
Where's this at? Where are you at?
I'm on Huron Street, off Nichols.
Okay.
I got his license plate number when I jumped out of the car.
Where'd you jump out of the car at?
No, I mean, he stopped because I was like, this is my destination, this is my destination. So I got out of the car, and it was like a block from where my actual destination was, but I just had to get out of the car because I was scared. He was driving 50, 60 miles an hour. He hit a car. He drove through the median, and it was crazy.
Okay, and this happened on West Main?
Yeah.
Drove through what median?
Well, when we tried to go right onto Nichols, you know how it kind of, there's that yield sign, and there's that big patch of grass. He drove through that.
Okay, just a second. Let me get you a right place, okay? Stay on the line.
Yeah.
This Nichols area.
(911) Where's your emergency?
Hi, I'd like to report an erratic driver.
Where at?
Well, I just got out of the car. I ordered an Uber, and I was in the car with him, and then he was like driving extremely fast. He hit a car, and then I got out. He dropped me off like a block from my destination. He wouldn't pull over and let me out.
Where did he hit the car at, sir?
On West Main Hill, like right by the Henderson Castle. He blew the stop sign, went left, and sideswiped the car, and then he kept driving.
Okay.
Up the hill.
I need to transfer you one more time. I'm going to transfer you to the city because that's where the accident actually occurred, so hang on 1 second.
Okay.
City is to be an erratic Uber driver. He was just riding with him, and they sideswiped a car right in front of Henderson Castle.
911?
Hi. I'd like to report an erratic driver.
Where?
I was just in the car with him. He was my Uber driver, and when he was weaving in and out of lanes, he sideswiped the car on West Main Hill. He was driving to the median. He was driving like 75 miles an hour down West Main. I got his license plate number when I jumped out of the car.
What's the plate, please? Okay, what kind of car is it?
It was like a Chevy Equinox.
What color?
Silver. He had a dog in the back seat. He was my Uber driver. Like I had to get a ride back to pick up my car from last night.
Mm-hmm.
And on my way to my friend's house, like it started off normal, and then all of a sudden he just started driving super crazy, blowing stop signs.
Did you want to talk to an officer, or you just want me to put out an alert over the radio?
I just wanted to report it because I don't want someone to get hurt.
I understand what you're saying, but I need to know if you want to talk to an officer or if you want me to have an officer, just have the officers just be on the lookout for it.
I just want to be on the lookout. And
okay, thank you.
Report to Uber because I don't think he needs to be picking
people up. You're going to have to do that, sir, not us.
All right, I can do that.
Thank you.
Now, Casey Black called 911 as well and tried to explain to the dispatcher what she had seen, what her and her husband had seen, and was basically blown off. Just said, okay, we'll make note of that, an erratic SUV driving.
Hi, I live at...
I'm sorry, what's the address?
And
Okay.
And this silver SUV just slammed on its brakes outside my house.
Okay.
And threw out a guy. And he came walking by here and said that it was an Uber driver.
Okay.
And that he hit somebody.
All right. What is your address again? How do you spell that? Or
The guy walked away.
oh. Okay. What?
And it was a silver.
Sure, but he didn't. But the guy that got out of the car, he just walked away. Didn't say anything to you, or?
He told me that the guy, as he was walking by, he was like, "Oh my God, I was just in an Uber car. The guy just threw me out. You saw that, right?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Okay.
And he said the Uber driver hit somebody on West Main.
Okay, and you said it was where you're at?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pass it on to them, okay?
Okay,
All right,
thank you. Where did they shoot at?
County emergency.
Mellon's call pretty much went the same way, and this is where it gets interesting because you have all the law enforcement being told in the early stages of what was going on happening, and them ignoring it. And basically they just said, okay, we'll report that, and basically blew him off. Melon got another ride home. Well, got another ride to his friend's house, got his car and got home, and then called his fiancée and told her what happened. And she immediately made a Facebook post warning people in the local area what just happened and to avoid Uber, especially if they're assigned a silver SUV, to please, don't take that ride because he's crazy, and posted it. And I'll drop that here. Then Melon attempted to contact Uber. This is when Uber still had voice support where you could actually call in, and told them what happened, and they had the same reaction as 911. Okay, we'll see we'll talk to him, we'll see what's going on, but he passed all the background checks. He sent them all the information on the ride, and they said they would follow up, but he never heard anything until Uber came out and made their big announcement that he had passed all their background checks. That's all Uber had to say. Now, again, you are an independent contractor. When you're driving with Uber, you simply use their platform as a way to get fares. So you technically do not work for them. But still, I think there's a piece of responsibility there about who you want driving for you. And somebody that falls off the deep end and starts erratically driving isn't somebody you want. So I think they should have paid a little bit of attention. But this was during what I call the golden era of Uber, and they weren't really concerned. Dalton, meanwhile, is busting butt back for his home. When he arrived, he went inside, he had a glass of water, he went down to the basement and started preparing his guns. He loaded the magazines completely full, and he set off with a loaded Glock 9mm, and also was wearing a bulletproof vest under his jacket. He called his wife, who was on her way home, and asked if he could swap out the 𝐼𝐸𝐴𝐻 for a Hummer that they owned. But that was at his parents' house, and they were away for the winter down in Florida, so he needed his wife to meet him at his parents' house so he could swap out for the Hummer, i.e. because his 𝐼𝐸𝐻 had been damaged when he sideswiped the Ford Taurus. However, he did not go straight to his parents' house. He instead accepted another Uber fare. Uber had not even ended his shift. They were still letting him drive. And it was a call from a woman who wanted him to pick up her boyfriend at Richland Township apartment complex. This was about 5:15. So we're roughly an hour and 15 minutes until his drive time. He headed for the apartments. The fare, Alan Blackburn, was 18 years old. He lived in the apartments. He had spent most of that Saturday outside until his girlfriend, Macy, who's the one that called the Uber, messaged him, asking if he wanted to come and have dinner and hang out at her place. He did. So he was waiting outside for the Uber ride. Unfortunately, Macy put it in the wrong pickup point and sent Dalton to the Meadows Townhomes administrative offices instead of the correct complex building. And Dalton called asking her what the proper address was, and was she the one being picked up or was it somebody else? She explained, no, it's her boyfriend. And then he was just kind of rude to her, she said, and said, hey, can you just help me out? Give me directions to where I'm supposed to be picking up whoever I'm supposed to be picking up. Now, as a former Uber driver, I understand that frustration when somebody puts in an incorrect address, but come on, guy's obviously unhinged. So for the next 10 to 20 minutes, Macy is texting Dalton instructions, and he's just going around the township apartments, driving erratically. In fact, Alan Blackburn, who was supposed to be the one picked up, the boyfriend, his guardian, Amy, who did not want her name put into this, just first name Amy, said that she saw a silver SUV driving rather erratically when she went out to get their mail. She had no idea it was there for her ward, so she didn't say anything to him. She did say that as she approached her mailbox where he had stopped, he was glaring at her with a very evil black stare look and just looked angry. And then as soon as she looked him dead in the eye, he gunned it, almost ran her over as he was zipping by it. And she said she almost put up the middle finger, but now knowing what happened, she was glad that she didn't. So he continued to drive around the complex. By this time, it's about 5:40, 5:45 in the afternoon. So he's been driving around this complex for about a half hour now. Macy still texting him, asking, did you get him? Is it all good? With no answer. Instead, he spotted a 25-year-old woman by the name of Tina Carruthers, who was outside with 5 children from the complex. And he pulled up and asked her if she was his fare. Was her name Maisie or Misty? See, he doesn't even realize that he's picking up someone else. He thinks he's actually picking up Macy, who he was communicating with, even though she told him, no, you're picking up my boyfriend, Alan. So he's asking, is this her fare? She says, no, I'm not, and I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. So she continued on her way. He passed her by, did a U-turn, came back toward her, pulling out the Glock, shooting Carruthers 4 times. Miraculously, she would live. She was shot in her arm, her leg, both legs, and her buttocks area. She did scream for the children. Another patron of the apartments came out and got the children to safety while she just pretended she was dead in the middle of the residential road. This was about 5:42. Alan, who is still waiting for the Uber, it's almost like a dark comedy, hears the shots and runs back inside their apartment. Macy, who has no idea what's going on, is still texting Dalton, are you close? Again, comedy of errors almost. Even though he shot her 4 times, he had actually fired 7 times, and as he sped by her, fully convinced he had killed her, thank God he didn't run over her, 3 of the bullets went into a nearby townhouse where 3 teenagers were playing video games, and if it hadn't been for a closet with teenage clutter in it, they might have been hit too, because the bullets were absorbed by the clutter. Of course, neighbors immediately came running out and found Carruthers. She was bleeding profusely. They got her an ambulance and got her to a nearby hospital. The bullet that went through her buttocks actually lodged in her liver, and she needed immediate surgery for that. People immediately started calling 911, telling what had just happened, that it was a silver SUV. There was a German Shepherd type dog. Remember, Mia is still in the back seat here, and was reporting this to the police. So they started getting all these reports. Remember, they had already turned down at least 2 calls earlier of a silver SUV driving erratically. Now they have a shooting associated with that, and they have to act now. All 5 children, including Carruthers' own daughter, were fine and had been whisked away inside another apartment. Yeah. Lots of eyewitnesses, lots of 911 calls started to come in. I'm sorry, I'm shocked. This whole, no matter how many times I've researched and read this, it's just, how? This could have been stopped if somebody had just pulled him over in the initial reckless driving stages. This is what gets me so mad sometimes. So now the police are out en masse looking for this silver SUV, and Dalton himself is out driving erratically. He almost had a head-on collision trying to get to his parents' house to switch out vehicles. Oh, and this is another laughable part. He did cancel that whole ride at the township apartment, saying he couldn't find it, cancel it. And Uber actually charged her $7.31 for that ride. Because according to their GPS, he circled the apartment several times and then drove out. So she got charged for that. But like I said, he was driving erratically to get to his parents' house. Ran a red light, sideswiped another car, almost got into a head-on collision. Finally, he got to his parents' house in 𝐼𝐸𝐯 Township, where he did meet Carol, his wife, who immediately asked what happened to the car, and he said he was sideswiped by an angry cab driver who took a shot at him. And he had called Uber and spoke to Uber, and they were handling the situation, but now he was going to go back out and take more fares because now he needed to fix the car. They could not locate the keys to the Hummer, thank goodness. So instead, he took his parents' black HHR that his wife had been driving and told her to take the 𝐜𝐚𝐬𝐞 home, to switch out all of her shopping and take the 𝐜𝐜𝐚𝐬𝐞 home. But he ended up giving her a handgun, a 9mm Taurus, and told her she was not safe without it, i.e. the phantom cab driver, and to not go to work tonight and not take their children to school on Monday, which really weird because it's still Saturday night. But in any case, he basically switched out the cars and took the HHR. After leaving, it's approximately 6:44 p.m. now. Dalton does take money out of an ATM. Then he continued to drive around in the HHR for about 35 minutes, and then allegedly returns to his house and switched handguns, though Carol was not home yet, so she cannot confirm or deny that. By 7:37, he had his Uber app back on and was continuously taking rides, and he carried out at least 2 to 3 with no incident. So he's just went on this rampage and is now quietly taking Uber rides. In fact, many of the passengers that rode with him after that said that, when they requested the ride, they were shown a silver Chevy Equinox. But when it pulled up, it was a black HHR, and he explained to them that his other car was in the shop, and so this is what they had. So none of them really complained, and so he was able to complete a few fares, honestly. Finally, at about 8:26, he did call his wife, Carol, and told her not to call her parents. Just more strange, and so now she's beginning to say that even though the story about the taxi driver was weird, he didn't come off as erratic or were, noting any doubt on her end, but still not normal. And so after hanging up with her about 8:30, he decided to continue to take a few fares and drive around. So more fares, more driving around. And then at about 10:01, he arrived at a Kia dealership in Kalamazoo. According to a witness, he parked his car and approached a young man and his father who were looking around the lot. A lot of people go to car lots late at night so they can look at the cars without having a salesperson beat in on them. So they were just looking around. And that young man was Tyler Smith. He had spent most of that Saturday with his father, Rich, looking for a car for his 17th birthday. His girlfriend, Alexis, was also riding around with them, but she had chosen to stay in the car at the time they got out at the Kia dealership. There's a long line of car dealerships on the strip. The name of the Kia dealership was Sealy Kia. They'd gone on to the used car portion and were looking at a blue Ford pickup truck when Dalton approached them. And she was kind of slumped down in the back of their Range Rover, not really interested, but she is the eyewitness, Alexis. Dalton pulled the black HHR in front of the office. He would say later that he felt compelled to look at a black BMW on the used lot. So he got out, and instead of walking to that black BMW, took the gun and walked toward the Smiths, who were looking at the blue Ford pickup truck, and shot them both dead. After asking what they were looking at, and they turned to answer him, he shot them. After they fell, he shot them some more. Then he walked up to the black BMW, took a look at it, looked inside of it. Meanwhile, Alexis is crouched down in the Range Rover, trying to kind of see what happened. What she missed, surveillance cameras at the dealership, as well as eyewitnesses that were in the parking lot of a Burger King across the street, filled in the rest. He walked back past the Range Rover, not noticing her in the back seat, thank goodness, because she had crunched down. Got back into the black HHR and peeled off. 911 calls from the Burger King came in describing the black HHR and Dalton to the best of their ability. The next 10 minutes, Dalton is driving erratically toward Texas Township, another little suburb of Kalamazoo, about 5 miles away, and pulled up to a Cracker Barrel restaurant where, unfortunately, some women had gone for a late night dinner. Mary Lou Nye, Mary Jo Nye, Dorothy Brown, Barbara Hawthorne, all over 60, and a 14-year-old relative by the name of Abigail Kopf had met up for dinner at that very Cracker Barrel. They had carpooled to see a performance of Chinese acrobatics on the nearby college campus. Now, a bit after 10 p.m., they headed to Cracker Barrel. I love Cracker Barrel. So basically, they had pulled up. Of the women, four of them along with Abigail were in a white van, and Mary Lou was in another car. They pulled in and parked next to each other. Dalton came up to them. He asked Mary Lou, the car driver, if she could spare $1 to make America great again. After she declined, he shot her point blank. He was about to run away, according to his own confession, but then he heard 4 screams come from the white van and decided to take out any eyewitnesses. He then leaned into the van, shooting the driver first, the passenger behind her, then the passenger side passenger, the front passenger side passenger, and then the other backseat passenger, shooting them all. And then he ran away. Of the women, only 14-year-old Abigail would survive, and she underwent many, many surgeries and treatments and setbacks over the course of this, but she is alive today, as well as Tina Carruthers. Everyone else, the Smiths, both Tyler and Rich, and the other 4 women were sadly dead on arrival. He sped off, continued taking Uber fares. Again, Uber still hasn't cut him off. Still taking Uber fares without incident. Meanwhile, roadblocks, citywide manhunt. Finally, a police officer saw the black HHR stop at about 12:04 a.m. on now February 21st, and he picked up and then dropped off 3 people at the Western Michigan University dormitories, and a police officer saw him and followed him. He and a backup from a local sheriff's office conducted a traffic stop at 12:40, arresting him for the rampage of the night. Upon being interviewed, the passengers after all the shootings said that he wasn't overly friendly, but wasn't rude either. That a couple of the college kids had even asked him, "Hey, did you hear about the Uber driver that went crazy and shot a bunch of people?" And Dalton said, "No, I haven't heard that." So police believed that there was absolutely no connection in the victims, that he did not know them, he had no scores to settle. They were just chosen at random for whatever reason in a deluded mind. 30 rounds were picked up at the Cracker Barrel. And, yeah. Again, this is just mind-boggling as to what causes someone to snap like this. I have no idea. But Dalton confessed immediately, but then blamed the shootings on the Uber app, saying that the Uber symbol resembles the Order of the Eastern Star, and it took over his body. Each time he pressed on the app, accepted a fare, finished a fare, the energy would grow in him, and then it just took him over, and that's the reason that he shot. The devil made him do it. The devil made him do it. He had no mental health record, no criminal history. He was arraigned on 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of assault with the intent to commit murder on Carruthers and Abigail. and was arraigned on February 22nd, 2016. He underwent psychological evaluation and was deemed in April to be competent to stand trial. So, Lori Vallow, you ain't got nothing on nobody. You are very competent to stand trial. At a pretrial hearing to determine what evidence would be admitted in May of 2016, while Tina Carruthers, one of the surviving victims, was testifying, reportedly Dalton interrupted her, shouted, and then started babbling incoherently.
Coming, and I saw a gun.
Intimidator cars. No, they gave bags. These old people, they have these old black bags. They're called they're black. They're black bags, and people drive around and look at them. It gets real like, hey, it's time people look, and then that's when they tell people it's time to get to Temple.
Joe, you need to listen to your attorney, right?
Yeah, you need to get to Temple because you need to get going because it's called intimidator bags.
You need to be quiet in today's proceedings, okay?
Yeah.
If you have anything to say, you whisper to your attorney. That's today's rules, okay? Okay.
So, Ms. Carruthers, are you okay? Or do we need to take a minute?
Call recess.
Take it!
Please, if you would escort down into holding.
He was forcibly removed, and the hearing resumed with him participating via Zoom. On June 6th, his attorneys put forth that they would be seeking not guilty by reason of insanity. He underwent yet another psychological evaluation, and a trial date was set for January 7th of 2019. However, instead of pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, Dalton did plead guilty to all counts against him. And on February 5th, 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is currently imprisoned at the Oaks Correctional Facility in Michigan. His wife, Carol, did divorce him and is living a quiet, anonymous life with her children today. And that is the story of the Uber Rampage of 2016. What do y'all think? I mean, I apologize for stopping and starting so much during this, but it is just mind-boggling what happened. And so this is the second in our video series on Rampage killings. Coming up next time will be the case of Cookie Thornton, who shot up a council meeting back in the 90s because he didn't get his way. So we're going to be looking at that on our next Rampage killing. But until next time, keto and crime.